In the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, Orpheus goes to the Underworld to reclaim his lost love, only to lose her the moment he looks back. In Midaq Alley, or Callejón de los Milagros, Orpheus does the same, but in this rendition, he dies. Welcome to Tale Oft Told podcast. So, Orpheus dies. Perhaps that's a little harsh. But in all fairness, when it comes to love, as we all know, or at least the end of love, it can be harsh. And in today's movie, the search for love and the ability to arise from poverty in Mexico City is even more harsh. Today we're looking at Midaq Alley, or Callejón de los Milagros, directed by Jorge Fons and released in 1995. Because this movie kind of intertwines between both titles, I'll also be calling it by both its names. Trigger warning and spoiler alert, this movie does feature violence, human trafficking, and grooming. Yeah, this movie is a doozy, but it's also beautiful and even cute at moments. That said, if any of these topics are a bit too heavy, I won't blame you for deciding to skip this episode and choosing not to watch this movie. If you do, then consider not listening alone, or at least knowing full well and taking solace that you're never alone, even when we make the descent. So, let's proceed. This podcast is dedicated to exploring love and loss by looking for traces of the Orpheus and Eurydice myth in everyday movies and media. If you're not familiar with the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, basically it goes like this. You have the son of Apollo, Orpheus, who falls in love with a nymph named Eurydice. They are married, but she tragically dies on their wedding day. A grief-stricken Orpheus descends into the world and convinces Hades to let him take her back. And Hades agrees on the condition that she'll follow him out. And while she does, he can't look back as she's behind him. He can't look back even once. Needless to say, he does. And in doing so, he loses forever. And this story, in some way, shape, or form, replays over and over again. In the movies we watch, in the books we read, even we can find it symbolized, or parallels of it, in the breakups and the loss of love that we ourselves experience. So even if you didn't know the myth until now, I can promise you, you know this story. So this movie, this Orphic movie, is actually based off of an Egyptian novel called Zukak al-Midaq, written by Naguib Mahfouz. And basically it chronicles the plight of a group of citizens in metropolitan Cairo, trying to do what they can to arise from poverty. But poverty, as it turns out, is a universal language. So when the creators of Midaq Alley set out to make a movie of the novel, it transferred quite seamlessly to life in 1990s Mexico City. The movie's called, as I've mentioned, Callejón de los Milagros, or Alleyway of Miracles, also Midaq Alley, and it's a city drama, like so many of the popular dramas of the time that we watched. Think Tales of the City by Amistad Maupin, or Rent, the musical, or even, Friends on TV. Aside from that, if you were alive at the time this movie was released, Think back to Mexican film. And most likely your recollection is that the movies that were coming out of Mexico, they had a way of punching you in the gut. Think Amores Perros, Y Tu Mamá También, Sexo, Pudor y Lágrimas. They were either movies that ended with a gun going off or some machista guy kissing another machista guy. 90s Mexican movies went for the jugular. And they also established the popularity of certain Mexican actors that still have top billing to this very day. Think Gael Bernal Garcia or Diego Luna. And in Midaq Alley, who do we have? Wait for it. We have the young Salma Hayek. This is almost part of the beauty of the movie, to just see Salma Hayek acting as a Mexican actress in a Mexican film, speaking in a very heavy Chilango dialect. She's completely oblivious that she's just a year away from being a breakaway star who goes on to be a Hollywood bombshell, dancing with snakes and shooting guns with Antonio Banderas. And now Salma Hayek has been in so many movies. But Midaq Alley continues to be my favorite, and it always will be. And in this movie, she is our Eurydice, playing the role of Alma, a Spanish word that means soul. And while there are a few storylines in the movie, all roads tend to lead back to Alma. I guess you could say that, contrary to most Orphic movies, Midaq Alley really puts its emphasis on its Eurydice character, Alma. Our Orpheus, who's played by Bruno Bachir, and he plays Abel, enters in the beginning of the movie, only to really reappear at the very end. And is this movie all about the love story of Alma and Abel? In a word, no. From the beginning, you get the sense Alma has bigger plans than just her love with Abel. You can tell she likes the finer things. And don't get me wrong, she likes Abel. In certain moments, she even maybe loves him. But from the beginning, you can tell she sees the world differently than he does. So Orpheus, or Abel, realizes his current vocation as a peluquero, or barber, simply won't cut it financially. No pun intended. So he does what many have done before. He immigrates to the United States so he can make higher wages, so he can come home and start a family with his beloved Alma. He leaves her, essentially, which you generally sense is a mistake. For in the alleyway of miracles, there's this existential dread. Alma is too young. She's too innocent. She's just too beautiful for such a place. She's also curious, adventurous, precocious. She wants to experience things and explore. For example, she wants to try smoking mota or marijuana. She sees a beautiful necklace in a store, and my goodness, está muy chido. She just thinks it's beautiful. In one revealing scene, Alma's mother, she does herself up in her finest dress and makeup so that she can receive a suitor at her home, Don Rue, who's the owner of a successful antique shop, only to find out that he's actually come to inquire for Alma, despite being several decades older. Kind of gross, right? But Don Rue is a shrewd and clever man. He knows the keys to Alma's heart. He showers her with gifts for which she enthusiastically receives. And it's clear that for Don Rue, it's about her youth. And he seems honest and straightforward about his plans, even if it's kind of gross. Nevertheless, his gifts work, and Alma is resolved to marry him, and everything appears to be going to plan. Until, while playing dominoes in the cantina, Don Rue suddenly dies of a sudden heart attack. And without having officially been married, he leaves nothing to Alma as an inheritance. And it's at Don Ru's funeral that Alma meets a total charmer named Jose Luis, played by Daniel Jimenez Gacho. And he watches Alma from a distance, observing her not like he's in love, but rather like she's a target. He takes her out, shows her a higher standard of living, to which an impoverished Alma is immediately drawn. In this moment, Abel be damned. One evening, Jose Luis brings Alma to his mansion of a home. While he takes an important phone call, she decides to kind of peek around his house. And when she does, she realizes that there's a whole section of the house that serves as a brothel. And this is the part we see Jose Luis as an expert manipulator. He explains that the women in his house aren't prostitutes. Rather, they're cortesanas, or courtesans. They have position, they have cars, they own their own homes even. At first, Alma is enraged at the deception, and she leaves him. "You'll come back," Jose Luis tells her. And it turns out, no one, and I mean no one, likes being poor. And for Alma, this appears to be her only ticket for a better life. So, when shown a door, she decidedly enters into it. Now, this scene is particularly difficult to watch. Let's just say that in Moulin Rouge, it's insinuated that Satine must go be with the Duke of Monmouth, even though she always manages to somehow slip away. However, in Midaq Alley, there's no slipping away, and there's nothing comical or playful about it. Alma bluntly submits to Jose Luis and becomes a, quote, courtesan, unquote, in his brothel. So Hades takes what's his into his underworld. With time, we see Alma settling into her new life, and the truth is revealed that Jose Luis's promises were just empty. They were just smoke and mirrors. And she doesn't appear to have her own car or her house, and she's treated as a commodity, not a human. He's basically trapped her, and she lives at his grace in the confines of his house. And so inevitably, the tragedy must occur. Abel returns. He looks for his Eurydice, but she's gone. He finds out from acquaintances what's become of her, but he has to see it for himself. He seeks to retake his beloved Eurydice, Alma, from the Hades that is Jose Luis. But as he does, he ends up getting shot, and he dies. And as he dies in a sobbing Alma's arms, it's unclear, at least to me, whether she's sobbing at losing her love, or if she's sobbing at the fact a man truly loved her. Honestly, there's so many ways to look at this. So when we analyze Orphic movies in this podcast, I always have to ask the question, what's the underworld here? Where is the place Orpheus must descend to get his Eurydice? In Callejón de los Milagros, maybe the underworld here is misguided youth? You know, it's interesting. When I first saw this movie, I was actually 18. They were featuring it on HBO in the US. And in watching it at that time, I felt so incredibly bad for Abel, as his love for Alma just seemed so pure. But now that I watch the movie in my 40s, I look at Abel and it's painfully obvious he never had a chance. Alma is just too flighty. She's too easily convinced. She's just too young and too beautiful. I remember this girl when I was young. I dated her. A lot of us dated her. Maybe any women listening can even relate to her. And that's okay. We all had a little bit of Alma in us when we were young, right? She'll tell you she loves you, and then she's looking for the next best thing right after hanging up the phone. And what Alma wants essentially is a man who can show her the world, a world to which she has very limited access. Abel, meanwhile, is loyal and just wants her to wait for him. She does not. And while intense love demands she should wait for him, the reality of life demands she take immediate action now. So you just know it can't work out. Another aspect in this movie is just how much attention is put on the women. So maybe the underworld is about the exploitation and mistreatment of women. Within the reels of Callejón de los Milagros, we have women who are being subjected to being groped, catcalled, and the women appear exhausted, if not even enraged by it at times. And then you have the character of Susanita, the landlady, seeking out honest love among men. She feels a love for the character Chava, who really is just using her for her money. So when it comes to women, we have men who are dishonest about their intentions, and when they are honest, well, their intentions aren't good. Is there really a better choice among the two? So maybe that's it. Maybe it's misogyny that's the underworld here. The fact that these women are living in a man's world, per se. But I digress. Perhaps the lack of honesty from men is just a byproduct of poverty. If being honest doesn't give you enough to live by, then naturally you'll look for dishonest means to live. The world is a kiln, and we are its clay, after all. Maybe we need to look at this from a broader economic standpoint. The underworld is poverty. Everyone in Midaq Alley is in a struggle to get out of poverty, with the exception being of Susanita. But her economic stability and her desire for true lasting love is a luxury. It's a luxury that no one else has. Sometimes you sense there's solidarity among the characters, especially when you see the tarot readings or the men playing dominoes in the cantina. But other times you feel like it's a bote de cangrejos, or a bunch of crabs in a bucket, clamoring over each other, bringing each other down, trying to get out. Whether it's the antique dealer, the panhandling ringleader, or Abel, the young lover who wants to go to the U.S., it's all a struggle. Maybe Midaq Alley touches on the raw reality that in this life experience, on this earth, the ability to obtain happiness is contingent on the suffering and exploitation of others. So maybe that's it, poverty. Or maybe it's a little of all the above, of everything we've mentioned. And whether you're a fan of the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice or not, every depiction of it has its own flavor. And for Callejón de los Milagros, the decision is to have Orpheus die, while Eurydice lives. Alma eventually accepts her reality as being a courtesan in a brothel. And in being so, she becomes all the more wiser and hardened. Meanwhile, Abel could never let go of his dream to be with Alma. I think the biggest chiste, or joke, about this movie is in the title, Callejón de los Milagros, or the alleyway of miracles. And whether it be through love, immigration, faith, or divination, it seems like all of the characters are looking for a miracle. And life just doesn't seem to want to give them any. Hey, dear listener, if you have listened this far, I just want to send a big thank you. And also, be sure to check us out on taleofttold.com and drop a line or a message if you would like to give your thoughts or ideas. They are always welcome. And it's come to my attention that a lot of folks, not a lot, like maybe one, listen to this podcast as a means of ASMR or to fall asleep. And that is absolutely okay. For our next episode, we'll be featuring the movie Her, starring Joaquin Phoenix.